From LinkedIn News, I'm Leah Smart, host of Everyday Better, an award-winning podcast dedicated to personal development. Join me every week for captivating stories and research to find more fulfillment in your work and personal life. Listen to Everyday Better on the LinkedIn Podcast Network, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Break language barriers instantly by translating up to 44 languages in real time with the HP AI PC, powered by the Intel Core Ultra processor. With the right tools, work doesn't have to feel like work. Learn more at hp.com/AI PC.
My business model from the beginning has not been selling you a home. My business model is to be your agent for life. And I can't do that if I don't put your needs first and your goals first and just do what's best for you. And then because I personally don't do any paid advertising right now, it's through word of mouth. And that's very, very powerful. What my clients have to say about their experience with me is going to be echoed throughout this community because, again, I'm in a niche market where everybody knows everybody else. So taking care of your clients is, extremely critical. And so,
hello, my fellow negotiators. How would you like to get the same expert insights and key takeaways in just a fraction of the time? If you answered, I would love that, then sign up for Negotiate Anything Premium today. Negotiate Anything Premium is designed for listeners just like you, people who are looking to level up their careers and relationships while juggling all the pressures of everyday work and life in general. So what are you waiting for? Negotiate Anything Premium offers ad-free listening because every second counts. Enjoy uninterrupted episodes to maximize your learning. Episode summaries. Get the most important insights from every episode quickly and efficiently. You'll also get mini episodes and highlight reels. You'll be able to dive into your favorite topics and tackle your most challenging scenarios with concise, impactful content. And then lastly, our question and answer forums. This is where you can ask me anything and get my advice on how to negotiate and navigate the most difficult conversations in your life and business. Don't miss out on the career of your dreams just because you're short on time. Negotiate Anything Premium is your key to building confidence, unlocking your potential, and earning more of the life that you deserve. It's everything that you love about the Negotiate Anything podcast, but in half the time. The best part? You can get started with your 7-day free trial today, so there's really no risk. Take it from me. As a lawyer, entrepreneur, father, and husband, I know that every minute counts. Are you ready to negotiate more of the best things in life? Join our premium community today. Kandis, thanks for joining us today.
hi, Kwame. Thanks for having me.
It is my pleasure. So how about you get us started by telling us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
It's funny because a little bit about myself is that I do not like public speaking. It always surprises, I think, my friends, family, SOI, anybody that I'm in small groups with, because I think I do present myself as very extroverted. And then if you follow me on social media, I'm on video doing different things, but actually doing public speaking makes me nervous. So I think it makes me nervous because talking about myself, knowing that the intro to this discussion is who's Kandis? Talk about her. That always makes me go, oh, I got to talk about me for a second. So yes, I'm Kandis Hall. I'm with the Thomas Riddle Real Estate Group at New Albany Realty. That is the #1 brokerage in New Albany, the #1 team at the #1 brokerage in New Albany. So we're super proud of that. We've been in business for over 25 years and we've helped over 2,000 clients find a home. And we also just broke the $1 billion mark, which is super exciting for our team. So yeah, I'm a top producing agent in this marketplace. And a little bit is that I actually entered and most people don't even know this. So I'm spilling the tea here. I entered the real estate market in 2021. So I actually got started full time, actually the second half of 2021. So I entered the market at an extremely competitive time, which actually I think was a blessing in disguise because I didn't have any prior conceptions or ideas about the market. I didn't have any bad habits based on a market that was no longer relevant. And I actually think that was really tough for a lot of agents to deal with because they were well, it's always been this way. And I'm accustomed to listing homes at X price and having this result. I just really had to, be very studious and be a sponge and understand the market that I was in. And of course, being just extremely competitive in general, I think really helped me because I was this is a sporting event. And I do still treat real estate as if it's a sport. And my kind of idea is that I'm going to put in the time. I'm going to put in the time that other people just aren't willing to do. So, and if you think about it like a sport, I want to be the last person to leave the gym, and I'm going to be the last person making that phone call on that negotiation, because I just want, to go the extra mile. But anyways, so yeah, so I joined it the second half of 2021, and I led my team in sales or closings for clients that last quarter. And that was pretty cool because, I entered a market that was very competitive with some really great top producing agents. And there was kind of a question where everybody was looking at me like, what's going on? Like, is this like beginner's luck? Like, is this gonna, kind of like, trickle out or, but then 2022 was my first full year in, and I did, I think, like around $25 million in sales, which in our marketplace is, pretty great. It is also just a super competitive space. Yeah. So I just, finished out 2023 as being a top producing agent in a very niche market. And that's great. We just continue to work extremely hard to put my clients in position for success in a market that's very, very competitive. And in order to do that, you have got to figure out how to win in multiple offer situations. If you cannot do that as an agent, you won't be successful, and your clients are not going to find homes in the marketplace that we're in, which is a tough reality, but it's the reality.
Absolutely. And it's really interesting too, because there are all sorts of different businesses and backgrounds that are represented in our audience, but we can all understand what it means to be in a competitive market. But when it comes to real estate in particular and the circumstance regarding multiple offers, that's pretty nuanced. So can you give us just a general overview of what that looks like before we actually get into the negotiation skills and strategies?
Yeah, so we're living in a state that, there are more buyers than there are homes that are on the market. So we are facing an inventory shortage and a housing shortage in many parts of the United States, but especially in Central Ohio. And that's not something that's going to be corrected anytime soon. And I'll just make a little plug there that people that are saying, I'm going to wait to buy, shouldn't. Obviously, what's most important is that you find, the home that you're looking for and that you're happy with, but waiting will cost you because it's a simple, principle of supply and demand. So what happens in these scenarios is that a home will come to market, and that home will not have just one interested buyer. They'll have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there are homes that receive 15 offers. And as a buyer, you need to understand and be working with an agent who truly, truly is an expert in your marketplace so that they can set expectations for you, but then also so that they can position your offer for success. And it's not always, the dollar amount. That's very important to understand because my clients, our offers are often accepted over other offers that had a higher dollar amount. And I guess we can get into that a bit later about exactly what I'm doing to make sure that my clients are successful and our offers are accepted. But yeah, so we're in bidding wars essentially. And I do think that it's a really great kind of takeaway for anybody who enjoys negotiations, because it's understanding how to position yourself for success if you want something that somebody else wants. And you're going to be in situations like that for negotiations. It's not always just you have a conflict and it's you versus them. It could be this is the goal, and there are 2 people jockeying for that goal, 3 people jockeying for that goal. And I often always go to kind of sports because I feel like I'm in this kind of competitive race to accomplish a goal.
Absolutely. And I think the analogy, it works because it's multiple people competing over scarce resources. And then that's when the competitive nature starts to come in. And a lot of times that can cause a lot of emotionality. And that's why it's so important to have an expert on your side who can help you guide your strategy and your approach. And when I think about this multiple offer situation, I'm thinking about the expectation setting for clients. You mentioned that. So managing their expectations. And then after you manage those expectations, creating a competent offer that's actually competitive. And then we get into the negotiation side. Can you speak first to the challenge of managing client expectations in these markets?
Absolutely. That's funny because one of the things I was thinking about is, gaining influence. And my ability to gain influence actually starts with being recognized as an expert in the market in which I'm selling homes. So my clients, who aren't even my clients, just people follow me on social media that live in the community, and they start to think of Kandis Hall Realtor as the realtor you're going to go to buy or sell a home if you need to in New Albany. So I'm already starting to gain that influence very early on. Oftentimes I'm being connected with somebody through social media but very oftentimes it's through somebody else in the community or a referral. And then they've seen my work. They see what I do. They see that I'm winning for my clients in this marketplace. They see the caliber of homes that I'm selling. And that already kind of sets the foundation of some trust. Of course, I think the biggest thing in these scenarios is the clients want to know that they're working for somebody who has their best interest at heart. My business model from the beginning has not been selling you a home. My business model is to be your agent for life. And I can't do that if I don't put your needs first and your goals first and just do what's best for you. And then because I personally don't do any paid advertising right now, is through word of mouth. And that's very, very powerful. What my clients have to say about their experience with me is going to be echoed throughout this community because, again, I'm in a niche market where everybody knows everybody else. So taking care of your clients is, extremely critical. And so I have that foundation of trust and they can feel it. They can sense it. One of the things too, when I'm thinking about, being on a podcast talking about sales and negotiations, my opinion is that authenticity is the most important thing. People are going to sense if you're trying to pull one over on them or be salesy with them. You have to be of service to the client and find out what they need and how your skill set is going to help them achieve that goal.
What I love about this is that we are right down to the fundamentals. We're talking about building trust and being authentic. And I think a lot of folks who are in business trying to negotiate, they're trying to find these one-liners, these zingers, these little things that they can say and do. But those persuasive endeavors will fail if you don't have a foundational level of trust. And a lot of times they might say that these negotiation strategies or expectation management strategies with their clients are not working. But I think if you rewind the tape and go all the way to the beginning of the relationship and you realize the problem isn't the strategies that you're using down the road. The problem is the fact that you don't have a strong relationship that is built on trust. And so you've been able to mobilize that in a way that has led to financial success, and you've been able to close these big deals. But again, it starts with trust. So what is it that you're able to do early on in your relationship with the clients that really starts the ball rolling of positivity when it comes to building trust?
I think just getting to know them and understanding what their family needs. So, asking questions and being present and just coming from a position of service. That's so important. And my background in hospitality, I think, has really helped me there. And it's just something you can feel in your interaction with somebody. If my clients are getting the sense that I genuinely want what's best for them. I had a phone call with somebody yesterday and, they're talking about selling their home. And they're in a situation where do they sell it now versus do they sell it next year? Their instinct, I'm sure, is that I'm going to tell them to sell it now, because that's what's best for the salesperson in the situation. But I always table that. I don't care what's best for me ever. I care what's best for that client. Because if the client picks up on that, they're going to feel it. They're going to know. And if I don't do what's best for them and guide them with that genuine, truthful, solid advice, they're not going to trust me. So it was funny because I was just talking to them yesterday. And she's like, well, we could maybe sell next year. And I said, well, if you could sell next year, I think your home value will go up. I think that you'll probably be able to sell your house for even more next year. So let's work through what fits best for you and your family right now. Let me connect you with a local lender so you can get all the information that you need. And that was it. I established a relationship and somebody who trusts me and knew that I wasn't going to, tell them, well, right now is the best time to sell, and then tell them some, reason why they shouldn't wait until next year. But I guarantee you, if that person waits until next year, they're going to tell their friend or family member how I took care of them and I'm trustworthy. And they're going to be thinking of me when real estate is on is top of mind for them, because it's just, it's something that as human beings, innately we know when somebody is trustworthy and worth referring our friends and family to.
Hey, listeners, I have a quick question. How long does it take you to get through an episode of Negotiate Anything? If you're like me, it could be a day or two, simply because life and other work responsibilities get in the way. If you can relate, not to worry, I have the perfect solution. Join Negotiate Anything Premium to level up your negotiation skills in half the time. With ad-free listening, episode summaries, and mini episodes that are exclusive to Premium, you can get your favorite expert insights in 10 minutes or less. Not only will this save you time, but it makes preparing for your difficult conversations just that much easier. Just download a quick mini episode or a key takeaway guide, and you're on your way to negotiating more of the best things in life. Here's what you get when you join Premium. First, ad-free listening. No more interruptions, just pure, focused learning. Episode summaries and quick worksheets. Quickly absorb the key insights and expert strategies with ease. Mini episodes and highlight reels. Get concise, powerful content on your favorite topics, which are perfect for those on-the-go moments. Question and answer forums where you can ask me anything and get my expert advice on any of the difficult conversations you're having, whether it's at work or at home. And you'll get all of this for less than $10 per month. So what are you waiting for? Take my word for it. As a CEO, father, husband, entrepreneur, and more, this is the best way to get your professional development journey in less time. Start your risk-free 7-day trial today. I'll catch you later.
Introducing the HP AI PC, your powerful AI assistant. Easily search through personal files, gain valuable insights, and make smarter, more informed business decisions. Unlock the future of work today with the HP AI PC, powered by the Intel Core Ultra processor. With the right tools, work doesn't have to feel like work. Learn more at hp.com/AIPC.
When you think about the trust equation, one of the things that pulls away from the level of trust you have with somebody else is how self-interested you are. So if they look at you and they say, oh, she is all for herself, that's the primary focus, it's going to diminish the levels of trust. And so breaking those patterns and not talking about the money first, actually showing that you care about the person and building that relationship, it's a great strategy for building trust, but it's rooted in authenticity and true caring for the other person. You can't really fake this. You have to genuinely care. And once you get them to that position where you have that level of trust, now let's say we're getting to this negotiation. Let's say they look at a house. They love this house, but it is a very nice house and multiple offers are coming in and they want to put in a bid that you disagree with. Now, when it comes to having that negotiation with your client, how do you work through that with them to position yourself to put forward the best offer?
Yeah, so there are many times where I tell a client, so for example, if a house hits the market, we go see it, they like it. Let's say the house is listed for $500. I'm very early on setting the expectation when they're viewing the property, what I think the property is going to sell for. I'm saying, hey, I want you to know the lens in which you should be viewing this home is that this is actually a 550 to 575 home. So that when they're in the house and as they're getting, just like we love it, they need to remove that sticker. And then it's also just education, just letting them know that the most effective strategy in this marketplace is to conservatively list a home, to elicit multiple offers. And I tell them, hey, as a listing agent, this is what I would do for my clients to elicit multiple offers. And this is how it's done. This is the psychology behind this approach in the current marketplace and why it works. Because what happens when you conservatively list a property, so this is just, I guess a nugget for any listing agents or anybody who's thinking about wanting to become a listing agent. Conservatively listing that home will ensure that you receive an offer early on. The biggest risk that a home has that comes to market in our current marketplace is the risk of receiving a stigma because there's no offer the first weekend on. If that happens, the market goes, there's something wrong with that house. So to ensure that that doesn't happen to the listing, you conservatively price it. So as a listing agent, what I'm doing is I'm working to tease that first offer out. Once I get the first offer, now we have market validation. Now everybody else that's interested in that home says, I knew it. I knew that home was a great home. And then that's how you then create this bidding war. So it's funny because as a listing agent, I'm creating the bidding war. I know what to do. I know what strategies to put in place. And then when I'm representing the buyers, I take that and I flip it on its head, right? So I am not the first offer in the door. If my client says I want to make an offer, I say, great.
There's a lot happening, but what I'm really enjoying is the process, the strategy that you're bringing to this too, because what I see a lot of people do is when it comes to managing expectations, they wait until there is a divergence of those expectations that is very clear and it almost boils into a conflict or it is a conflict. And then they have to work backward. They're playing from behind. But what you said that was really insightful is you start setting the expectations as soon as you start working with the clients. So as soon as you establish that rapport, you build that trust, and then you start to look at these houses. And then as you're going through these houses and they're starting to fall in love with the houses, you're saying, hey, listen, I know this is what the list price is, but you need to be prepared. If you want to compete for this, it might have to go higher just because we're in that type of market. And so that helps you to make that future conversation a lot easier because you've done a lot of the work. And I love what you talked about when you were mentioning the interaction with the other side too, because again, it starts off with the same thing, building trust and rapport. The person feels a lot more psychologically safe with you. They feel more open to being vulnerable and sharing information because they know you're not the kind of person who's going to take advantage of them inappropriately, and you are competent and credible, and you're actually somebody who they would actually want to work with. This is a masterclass because what we're doing is we are pre-negotiating all of these things so you don't run into a situation where the conversation is much more difficult than it needs to be.
That is so, so true. I mean, and again, like people don't even necessarily understand what I do with my job, right? They just see like, you sell a house and you write an offer for your clients. It's like, no, I am in negotiation wars. And the thing about me that has set me apart, just to, make it clear, is I don't lose. I don't want to lose. I won't lose. If my client wants the house, I'm going to pull all the strings. Ultimately, it's going to be up to them, but I'm going to do every single thing that I can to make sure that they're successful. And I will also say the times in which where I'm in a multiple offer situation and my client doesn't come out on top, it's because I've said, hey, this is what it's going to take to win. And they say, I'm not comfortable with that. I say, okay, let's go with the offer that you have. And so we still ride it out. They make the offer that they feel comfortable with. And what it does is they still may very much so trust me, but they still need to experience it in the marketplace. And then they'll say, aha, like I get it now. Like I went through that. Kandis told me everything that was going to happen. And even though I trusted her, I just wasn't ready, and I thought maybe I could get this deal at this price. And now I've actually experienced this. And that is very powerful for me as an agent. I tell the agents that are on my team, like, that's a part of like building the trust with the client, is going through that process with them and understanding that, in the long run, it's still going to serve the client and you haven't broken that trust.
Oh, this is good, because what you're doing here is you're continuing to build trust through respect. You're respecting them as an adult to make an adult decision. And you're saying, hey, this is what I think might occur. It's your decision. If you want me to do this, I'm going to do this. I'm going to give you the information that you need to make an informed decision. And then what you said is you allow them to experience it in the marketplace, because you can anticipate what's going to happen because you have a lot of experience in the marketplace. But for most people, it is a purchase that they only make once or a few times in their life. So you're going to have a lot more experience. And so you're going to say, hey, listen, I'm going to stick with you. If this is what you want to do, let's do that. And that's another mode of persuasion. Instead of doing the other thing, trying to almost patronize them by preventing them from making this decision. And now you break trust, and it makes it much more difficult for you to have a good working long-term relationship.
Yes. And I think that's something that I've seen agents not understand. This is what I think will happen, but ultimately, like, you're making the decision. It's up to you. That's so critical that you're not frustrated with them because they're not doing what you're telling them as the expert. Ultimately, there are certain people that they just conceptually don't want to pay above list price for a home. So what happens in those scenarios is I even set the expectation. And okay, that's great. What we're going to need to adjust maybe your expectations for what it is you want to buy. We probably need to look at homes that have made it through the first weekend on the market, maybe need some cosmetic updates. Those are probably the homes. And so then we shift. So based on, what the client needs, based on their expectations, there are certainly, like I said, there are people that just don't want to be in bidding wars, don't want to pay above what the current price is. And you just have to be able to pivot. But serving your client and making sure that you never, ever break their trust is the only thing that's going to lead to you being successful in this market.
I love this. This is great. And now, Kandis, with the time we have left, I think this would be a great opportunity to talk about the challenge, or maybe perceived challenge, of negotiating commissions, because now we're living in the world after that big decision, and there are a lot of people who are concerned, confused, and not really sure what to do. So for the listeners who might not be familiar, can you just give an overview of what happened and then talk about your strategy for handling?
Yeah, so I guess I just want to disclaimer here. I'm not the expert. Frankly, I haven't spent much time following this at all. And it's because of my opinion on the matter. And I'll share with you what my genuine opinion is. I think there was a settlement that was proposed. I don't believe that that's been ruled on. So technically, I don't think that there's any decision that has been made final. But ultimately, there was an argument, I think, that perhaps commissions were not being negotiable for consumers. I disagree. I, certainly have never entered into a situation working with a client that didn't believe that my commission was negotiable, because I've been negotiating my commission since I've, started as an agent. There are buyers that want to negotiate the commission that I'm paid. Of course, anytime I'm at a listing interview or appointment, my commission is discussed. So my opinion on the matter is there's kind of like this overarching idea that commissions weren't negotiable before, and now they're going to be negotiable. In my opinion, the only thing that's going to change is going to probably be the way in which commissions are disclosed. So there's going to be extra disclosure everywhere about who's getting the commission and what they're getting. The other thing that people, I think, need to remember is that you've always been able to sell your home for sale by owner. There are discount brokerages that have been in the marketplace for some time that are just known as a discount brokerage that will list your home for 1%. I'll tell you that exists in Central Ohio. Everyone, I'm sure, knows that there's some place that you can list your home for very little commission. Why aren't those the number one teams? Why is that not my competition? That's not my competition, because what I deliver my clients is valuable. The people that are in our community, the people that are in our marketplace that truly understand real estate, understand that they need an expert. I'll tell you, even as an agent, I need to be informed about how the market's changing weekend by weekend. It's just, you truly need an expert. And then the other thing I think I mentioned this to Kwame before a conversation, was that as a listing agent, if I personally listed my home for sale, there's no question that I would not offer 3% to the buyer's agent. The reason why I want to offer 3% to the buyer's agent is because I want to highly incentivize any and everyone to work on my behalf to market that home to as many people as possible. And so when you take that away and you decide how much you're going to pay someone, there aren't a lot of buyer's agents that would necessarily be willing to work for free or work for very little based on the amount of time and hours that they have to take away from their family to make sure that a buyer has a home. So that's just not something that I would do. I will tell you my opinion that there are times when I say, why is that house still on the market? And I'll look at the remarks. It's because, in my opinion, they're offering 1% to the buyer's agent, or they're offering nothing to the buyer's agent. You can't just demand that people work for you for free. You do need to pay people for the services that they provide. So yeah, I just think that that's always been an option in the marketplace. And there is plenty of research that also supports the difference between listing your home for sale by owner or at a discount brokerage and the amount of money that a very seasoned, talented, skilled agent is going to be able to get you for your home. And it's more.
This is a great breakdown because it kind of shifts the perspective from panic to just another simple negotiation that we have every single day. And what's really great about this is that we're focusing on the incentives. Incentives drive behavior. And so you might say, all right, I want to just lower everybody's commission to almost nothing so I can take more for myself. Well, we don't think about what behavior we are incentivizing then, because then it makes it less likely for people to want to work with you or even make offers onto that house. And I think that's an element of this that people are not really appreciating fully. And then also just in the way that you responded, there was confidence in the way that you responded because you're confident in the value that you provide. And if you can just really have that confidence and speak confidently in that way and deliver what you just said in the same way, people would say, oh, well, I did not think about that at all. I was looking at it only through one lens and didn't consider the consequences. Yeah, I'm good where we are. And then the other thing too, we have to remember that sometimes the worst outcome for a negotiation is a sealed deal that never should have been done. And sometimes you find yourself saying yes to things you never should have said yes to. So if you're a realtor and you don't feel comfortable with this, just say, I'm not the person for you. Best of luck. And if you change your mind, come back to me. And I think that delivers a lot of confidence as well.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, there are times where, yeah, I go into listing appointments and I'm willing to lose that deal, lose that, I'm obviously, I want to work hard for that client and tell them everything that I think I'm going to be able to do for them and how my skill set's going to leverage their home and how I think that I'm going to sell their home for the most that it could possibly be sold for. I speak to the records that I've broken in the communities that I've sold homes in. And if it comes down to them for who's willing to do it for less money, I'm probably not the agent for you because I know how much time and effort and the value that I bring to the table. And I don't need to discount that. It's time and so much time away from my family. It's so funny. My son's always like, oh, you're always working, you're always on your phone. And so that's valuable. It's important to me that I'm compensated for my time and I know what I have to bring to the table. But in these scenarios, you certainly as an agent better be prepared to explain the value that you bring to the table so that people are educated and they understand why it is that they need you. This is a perfect example. This was perfect. My client, I have a friend in the community. She connected me with her dad who wants to buy a home. And I showed them a property, started, had a meeting with them, showed them a property, just my usual kind of going through the, initial introductions and beginnings of working with the client. And she was on a group text and she said, that her dad was interested in a new build. And there are plenty of people who understand that in new build situations, you can usually work with the sales consultant or sales rep for that community. And you could. And she asked me, my dad wanted to know why we would need your help in this scenario. And I said, hey, I think you could probably get by with not having an agent work for you in this scenario, assuming everything goes well. Assuming everything goes well, it's probably okay. The risk that you take is that everything doesn't go well and you don't have somebody that's able to negotiate on your behalf and look out for your best interests because you haven't gone through this before. So it's almost like when you hire an attorney, like you could do it. You can do anything without representation, but you have to understand the level of risk that you have there. So it's funny because I said that assuming everything goes well, you could absolutely do it without me. I think you need an agent if things don't go well, if things aren't getting done on time, if the contract's not being followed. If you go to the inspection and things weren't, done properly, you need someone in those scenarios. That's why I think you should consider working with an agent. And she texted me back. She said, great. My dad says we need you. Thank you so much. But just they needed to understand, like, why would we, have you involved in this scenario? So yeah, you certainly have to be able to understand what it is how you're going to be able to serve your clients. But no, I'm not worried. I think, it is, I don't want to say like clickbait, but people that don't work in this industry and don't understand it's this news, what's like on the radar this week, right? So I think that after everything goes into place, we're all going to see that this was always an option. But I think the argument in this scenario was additional disclosures perhaps needs to occur so that it's just very in your face where the commissions are going, who's paying them, how it works.
Love it. No, this is great. This is great. And it reminds me of one of my favorite sayings in law. They say the person who represents themselves has a fool for an attorney. And so, I mean, I'm a business owner. A&I is a business. I have lawyers who work for me, right?
That's hilarious.
I'm not going to do my own stuff. We're going to miss things. We're too close to it. We don't have the right perspective. And then even in now bringing it back to what you said here, it reminds me of the Dunning-Kruger effect. So a lot of times the people with the most confidence are the people who have the least knowledge because they don't know enough to understand how challenging it is. And so people might say, okay, I can handle this. And then they start trying to handle it and they very quickly realize I cannot handle this, especially when you consider everything else that is happening in their lives. So I think that is a great response. And I'm just thinking about this as a great piece of like coursework in literature for agents who are trying to learn how to negotiate and just get better deals, but also have better relationships with their clients too. So Kandis, I really appreciate you coming on the show. And before you go, can you remind the listeners about you and how to get in touch?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you, Kwame. This has been so enjoyable for me. It's not every day that I get to sit down and actually talk about what goes on behind the scenes. My clients, see me in that face-to-face interaction. They see me closing deals, but They don't know how much time I actually spend on the back end building rapport and working on relationships and doing all these things to make sure they get, their dream home when they decide that they want it. So thanks again. So I'm Kandis Hall. I'm with the Thomas Riddle Real Estate Group and New Albany Realty. If you want to get in touch with me, follow me on Instagram at Kandis Hall Realtor. Hopefully my spelling is somewhere on here, but it's Kandis. I spell my name a little bit differently, but would love to help you. And if you're an agent that's struggling in this market, definitely, connect. And, it's always fun to talk about negotiations and how we can get together and leverage the skill set that we provide our clients. Just, keep bringing our industry forward.
This was really, really great. Really appreciate you coming on the show today.
Thanks, Kwame.
Wait. Now, before you sign off, I have something to tell you that I've never told you before. Just kidding. I've told you before, but you should listen to it again. I want you to know about Negotiate Anything Premium. Imagine all of the things that you love about our traditional feed, plus so much more. I know you like our traditional feed because you're at the end of the episode. And with Negotiate Anything Premium, you'll get more bonus content you've been asking for, more of the expert insights that you can't get anywhere else, and more exclusive behind-the-scenes access into every conversation. Are you ready to get more of what you want out of your life, career, and every conversation? With Negotiate Anything Premium, you'll have access to more high-level, custom-designed content and insights, giving you the tools you need to negotiate higher salaries, better deals, and better relationships in your life and career. Once I had a listener share that Negotiate Anything helped her to negotiate a $53,000 raise. Could this be you? What would that mean for your life? I've seen firsthand the impact this model has had on my life and the lives of my corporate clients, and I am confident that it can do the same for you. Are you ready to negotiate more of the best things in life? Click the link in the show notes to learn more. I'll catch you later.